What's up, fellow internet denizens? Today we're looking at every mythological dragon from all of Asia and pitting them against each other in a tier list. When you hear the words Asia and dragon together, you probably imagine Longs and Tatsus, or Chinese and Japanese dragons respectively. However, Asia is bigger than that, and there are a lot of weird cool dragons from all over the continent. Sources will be in the description as usual. Again, C tier and B tier aren't bad. C tier just means it's an average dragon. It breaks my heart to put dragons there, but some just don't really stand out, you know? Anyway, let's explore, shall we? Let's start off in the Hittite Empire. The myth of the Illuyanka is one of the oldest dragon legends we know of, and it's also one of the first stories where a dragon is slain. In the story, Illuyanka wins his first fight with Tarrant, the storm god. Tarrant goes to Inara, the goddess of love, and gets Illuyanka debilitatingly drunk, and Tarrant goes in for the kill. Now, what does this creature look like? Well, here's Estelle, and it's just a big snake. Well, what did you expect from a creature whose name is cognate to the Proto-Indo-European words for eel and snake? He's just a big, sad, drunk snake. D tier. Moving a little to the north, we have the Armenian dragon Vishap. He is slain by a hero called Vahagne. Vaughn? I am sorry to my one Armenian viewer. Anyway, he looks like a snake with wings and what looks like a beak. I can't really find much else about him aside from several Genshin Impact wikis, so I'm gonna have to give him a C. And now, let's go a little bit south to the Phoenicians. Let's talk about tanning. When looking for sources, there was a lot of creationist stuff that I don't really agree with. However, when I scrolled down a little further, I found the most adorable blog. I don't know if they're an actual source, but I'm linking them anyway for you guys to have fun with. Unfortunately, the only primary sources I could find about Tanin are the Bible, and all conflict with each other. Context in Genesis says that Tanin is a whale, while in Exodus and Psalms, he's a snake. He also sometimes appears as a dragon, but is never described, so it might as well be a long whale for all I know. Also, the word means crocodile in modern Hebrew. F tier. I hate ambiguity. Next. Leviathan seems to be etymologically tied to Lotan and from the same area, so I'm putting them together. In the Baal cycle, Lotan is a seven-headed serpent that Baal and Anat kill. Meanwhile, in the Bible, a Leviathan is a mythical sea monster that is only ever mentioned in the more poetic verses, so I never really believed in it. In Psalm 104, Leviathan is described as big enough to break ships. So to summarize, giant sea hydra that coils, breaks ships, and that various sky gods have either defeated or will defeat, depending on your religious persuasion. I've kind of noticed a pattern with these earlier Mediterranean dragons. They always seem to be big, associated with water, and always get killed by a being from the sky. I'm saying B tier because at least we finally have a description. Alright, Bahamut/Behemoth. Sometimes this is considered a dragon. Bahamut's even a dragon god in D&D. However, most portrayals I can find of Bahamut or Behemoth show him as a giant whale or fish that lives under the earth. F tier, not a dragon. Now, the Falak lives under Bahamut, or Behemoth, at least in some Islamic lore. It's a giant magma serpent that lives in the seventh hell and is set to devour sinners during the apocalypse. At least I think. It only really appears in one part of 1001 Nights, and the one site I could find that says anything other than this is a dragon is dubious at best. I'm saying D because it's a giant snake made out of lava. That's all we know. I swear it gets better from here. Okay, let's go a bit further north to the Fertile Crescent. You've probably seen this guy before if you've seen pictures of the Ishtar Gate. Mushkushu is kind of dog-like to me, and for the longest time, I thought they were guard dogs that were painted on the gate. In my research, they're actually dog-like dragons that are Marduk's loyal servants. There's not really much known about them apart from their loyalty and their connection to kingship, but I'm giving them a B anyway because they're friend-shaped. Now, Tiamat. You all have heard of her. She's an evil goddess in D&D. Is she a five-headed dragon who gets clocked by a group of kids as soon as she appears? Unfortunately, we don't really know what she looks like. According to the Enuma Elish, we know that she has the following: a tail, thighs, lower parts, a belly, breasts, ribs, a neck, a head, a skull, eyes, nostrils, lips, and entrails. You heard that right, by the way. Tiamat is the first historical instance of snitties. So all you horny fucks out there have the Sumerians to thank. Anyway, she births several other creatures that are described just as detailed as her, watches her husband die, and then sends her kids to avenge him, and is killed by Marduk. I'm giving her a B because of all the legacies she's left behind. Can't give her an S or an A because we still have no idea what she looks like. Let's go a bit further east now. Most sources I could find on Ajdaha were from Genshin Impact. Why? Anyway, according to Encyclopedia Ironica, Ajdaha was a dragon similar to most Indo-European dragon narratives. Ajdaha in particular has 3 mouths and 3 heads. Some sources say he was more human-like with dragon traits, while others say that he was more dragon-like with human traits. Whatever the case, it is agreed upon that he was large and had 3 heads. He also seems like how Christians view demons, going around spreading lawlessness and cults. He is ultimately slain, as most Indo-European dragons are. C tier. Aji Surara. This Persian dragon is yellow, has horns, and swallows horses whole. He is also incredibly poisonous, enough that he is described as spitting poisons, which sounds like a breath weapon, and I love breath weapons. There's not much else on him though, so C tier. Ajirodita is a Persian dragon who is bright red, and it appears he was created in opposition to Ahura Mazda's creation. This kind of sounds Tolkienian to me. There's not really much else description-wise, so despite how cool he is as a concept and how much Persian dragons sound like chromatic dragons from D&D, I think he goes in D tier. I hate to rate any dragon so low, but I just need more details, man. So, under Persia, there is supposedly a cave within which dwells Shamaran. She is a dragon with a horned woman's head, a snake head for a tail, and 6 snake heads for feet. She's the queen of the snakes and has a beautiful garden full of them. Shamaran is a great healer whose head grants eternal life if eaten, and the rest of her grants sudden death. Which head? I would assume the human one. This feels like someone Drist would encounter in the Underdark, actually. A tier. Now, further east we hit India, where Nagas are the most prominent dragon. Nagas are important figures in Hindu lore. They often serve as symbols of fertility, order, duality, and hidden knowledge. Sometimes they appear as hydras, while other times they appear as snakes with human torsos. They can live forever, shedding their skin whenever they're about to die. I think that's pretty cool. My source lists 12 different Nagas and their roles in Hindu lore, and I would wager there are many others. I think Nagas deserve an A because there's so much variety and mysticism amongst them, and I like my dragons to be shapeshifters, so, you know, personal preference. The Indians have a story about a sky god killing a giant serpent. Vritra hoards the waters of the earth, and Indra swiftly punishes them for that. I can't really find any physical descriptions of him, and most pictures I've found are either fan works or just pictures of him as a human. I'm mad. D tier. Dude went down like a chump anyway. Let's head a bit further east and a little south, all the way to Indonesia. Here, we have a giant snake who lives 7 layers underground. Antaboga supports the weight of the world in his coils, and allegedly can be found in a cave under Mount Arjuna. He's often portrayed as a giant green snake wearing a beautiful crown. He's married to a female dragon named Dewi Supreti, and they have several children. There appears to be a traditional shadow puppet show based on their story, which I think is awesome. D tier. Let's go a little bit to the north now, to the Philippines. A long time ago there were 7 moons, but this awakened a sea dragon and made him rather cranky. He ate the moons one by one until the ancient people of Visayas yelled at him and banged pots together, scaring him away. He comes back every so often to chew on the moon again, resulting in eclipses. Now the cool thing about him is the fact that a lot of Filipino smiths make blades with Bakunawa head hilts, although some scholars think that they're just crocodiles. Look at this one with the horn on his nose though. Is that a crocodile to you? I don't think so. Unfortunately though, I'm putting him in C tier because aside from being a sea serpent who eats the moon, he just really doesn't do much else. Now the people of Samal believed the Milky Way is a trapped dragon. Despite the name Samal Naga, he doesn't really seem to be anything like an Indian Naga. The Samal Naga is a giant serpent with 9 tongues who shoots fire from his eyes and drips poison from his mouth. A god trapped him in the sky for ravaging Samal, and he is still up there to this day. I love the description here, but he has to go in C tier because again, doesn't really do much aside from get trapped in the sky. In Kapampangan mythology, I believe I said that correctly, the Lawu is another dragon who causes eclipses. This one, however, has bird claws, feathery wings, and a crocodilian head. This one is an equal opportunity dragon who can eat the sun or the moon, but the sun and the moon always fight their way out of his stomach. A tier because he's a lot more snazzy than Bakunawa. Now a little to the west we have Vietnam. Vietnamese dragons, or rongs or longs depending on the source, are long reptilian snakes with 4 crocodile legs, antlers, manes, and a crocodile head. The first dragon was said to have fathered hundreds of children with a mountain fairy, and those people are now the Vietnamese people. In Vietnam, Dragons were originally a symbol of nobility, prosperity, and kingship, and they often appeared in dragon dances in the Mid-Autumn festivals. Here, wrongs are portrayed as long puppets on high poles rather than a costume like in China. C tier. Love the story, but there's not really much else I can find. Now, if you exist on this planet, you have seen at least one depiction of a long, whether it be in a Lunar New Year parade, Mulan, or even a drawing on a restaurant menu. Longs aren't your standard European dragon, in that they're long, and they breathe weather. They have deer antlers, shrimp eyes, I assume they can see in all the associated colors, bull mouths, dog noses, fish whiskers, lion manes, snake bodies, fish scales, and hawk claws. Some have wings and some do not. They come in several colors, each symbolizing a different attitude or virtue. Black, for example, is revenge and catastrophe. Red is luck, yellow is power and wisdom, white is purity, blue is plant growth, and gold is prosperity. As for mythology, dragons helped spread agriculture, unify China, and even ward off evil spirits. If you've read Journey to the West, you'll know that a Long gives Sun Wukong his iconic staff. There's so much variety in mysticism and character here. I have to give him an A. Now, the dragon had 9 sons. I could only find reliable sources on the 9 of them together rather than individually, so we're grouping them all as one. The 9 sons of the dragon are commonly found in motifs on various household objects and buildings, kind of like gargoyles or the Bakunawa on Filipino blades. Xi is a turtle dragon who carries heavy loads like pillars. Wen is a tailless lizard who eats fire and spits out rain and sits on rooftops like a gargoyle. Wu Lao is a tiny dragon who lives by the sea and is commonly found on bells. An is a tiger dragon who lives on prison gates, and one source I found says he likes lawsuits, so I already know we're not going to be friends. Tao Tie is a greedy wolf dragon who is often carved onto tripods. Fa Xia is a fish dragon who decorates bridges. Suan Ni is a lion dragon who lives on incense burners, and finally, Jiao Tu is a snail dragon who lives on doors and makes sure they're locked during an invasion. There is some dispute as to how many there are, or who is one of the 9 sons and who isn't. For instance, I found another source that replaced Tao Tie with Yazi, a dragon who lives on string instruments. I love these little fellas. These dragons feel like European house fairies, actually, with their own special domestic jobs. S tier, because 1, very unique, and 2, I have a soft spot for all small domestic creatures. Now let's head east again to Japan. In Japan, dragons are usually called tatsu or ryu. Japanese dragons have 3 toes as opposed to the 5-toed Chinese dragon. They're also longer and more serpentine. There are several varieties of dragon here, as there are in China. For example, the Mitsuchi is a smaller hornless river dragon who spits venom at passersby, and Orochi is a giant 8-headed, 8-tailed dragon who is slain by Susanoo. While dragons are still a symbol of nobility here, they also seem to be a bit more varied in their personalities. Also, kind of a side note, in the town of Nikko, there is a temple with a room called the Crying Dragon Room, where the ceiling has a dragon, and the room is built in a way that there is a constant quiet roar. I've been there before, and it's awesome. I think the dragons here deserve an S tier. There's a lot of variety and mystique, and I met one, kinda. Now in Korea, dragons have longer beards than their Chinese and Japanese counterparts, and have exactly 81 scales on their back, as the number 9 is a symbol of yang there. There's actually a hierarchy of dragons here. Horned, 4-toed dragons, or miru, carry orbs called yeju, and are the strongest. Most Korean dragons have 3 toes, and only really grow a 4th, and horns, if they catch a yeju. These are called imugi. Finally, the gongchori are serpent-like dragons who poison water tables, bring agriculture-ruining storms, and cause droughts. I do like the hierarchy here, but I can't really find much about them except on AI sites because the algorithm seems to love those for no reason. D tier. To the north of China, in the Altai region, dragons are mostly benevolent creatures like in East Asian mythology, but they can spew fire from their tail. They're yellow or black, have 3 to 9 heads, and can talk. They live in forests and like to eat frogs and snakes, but sometimes they crave something a little bigger, like the sun or the moon. Again, they can also heal the blind and regrow people's limbs. I'm getting mixed vibes from this guy, so C tier. Finally, let's head south to the Himalayas. Dragons are so intertwined with Bhutanese culture, they call themselves the Drukyul, or the Kingdom of the Thunder Dragon, and they even have a sect of Buddhism called Drukpa. The Druk protect Bhutan from all exterior threats by causing frequent storms and roaring like thunder. They even appear on the flag. Druk are large, serpentine, and white like lightning, carrying a gem on each of their paws, each of these symbolizing wealth, perfection, and spiritual power. I think any land with a dragon on their flag is badass. Solid A. I hope you guys enjoyed this. The amount of dragons with only one guy's podcast as a source, AI slop, and anime waifu gacha game wikis, all of those were exhausting to get through. I hope I find less of those when I make part 3, where I will be ranking every dragon from Oceania and the Americas. I have been Alien Daydreamer, and I am out. Bye!